Hi, my name is Philip and in this course I will show you the full interior modeling process. We will start by importing CAD files, preparing walls together with rooms, and finally render them in Vray. I will explain to you my trademark course 7STGR, which means 7 steps to get realistic. Thanks to that, you will understand how to make render visualization from scratch and which steps you need to take one by one to get realistic visualization. In the first part, we'll focus on CAD files, how to work with them, and how to use AutoCAD Sketch to build walls, doors, windows, and accessories. All these topics will be covered in this part. So, let's get started to work.
So our project will start with importing the CAD files. This is the normal procedure that you will probably do a lot of time, especially if you receive any files from the from your clients, for example. Then we need to go in the SketchUp to the import, and we have two different files to choose. The first one is with extension JPG. This is standard image, and the second one is with the DXF. You can also find the files with the extension DWG. This is comes from AutoCAD, and normally the file that is used by most of the computer software is exactly DXF, and this is what you need to require from your clients, especially that some of you probably will not use AutoCAD, which is only the one software that can open DWG. What is the difference between standard image and the XF? I will explain you in the following lessons. So first we will start with the standard image. We select it and we click import. Now we need to choose the location for this file, and of course right now we need to use some default size because later we will rescale it. After we place our image, then we can go with the camera from the top, and we can select parallel projection for better view, and we will zoom in our image. Unfortunately, as you can see, image is built from the pixel. This is why we have not so much accuracy here. You can see that we have some kind of shadows. Those pixels look very bad when we zoom in. So what we can do to increase the quality, which will be needed to create very precise wall, for example, there is one thing we can do. We can go to the window and preferences, and in OpenGL we have use maximum texture size. After click it, we get the pop-up windows that tell us that if we have a lot of texture in the SketchUp, now they will be displayed with the higher quality, and this can also slow down our SketchUp. But after that, if I will zoom in, you will notice that there is some improvement in our image, which of course will be quite easier for us to draw anything, but still it's only the pixels. So if we already have the photo, the next process is to start a draw. But first of all, we need to set the correct dimension for our photo, because still there is the problem with the scale. So I start to draw the line with the measurement. Then I hit 100 because I know that this wall is with 100 millimeters, and now SketchUp will ask if I would like to rescale whole the photo, and after that we have correct size. So let's we draw the line. So between both ends it should be something about 100. Unfortunately, as you can see, because this is still the pixels, so it's not precise enough, so we need to remember about some accuracy. This will be some problematic, especially if you would like to get very accurate 3D model. So you must remember to fix most of the size by yourself, because photo is not a good solution to redraw anything. This could be only used as a reference, but not to generate exactly the dimension that we probably get from the AutoCAD files. So the next task will be, of course, to start draw all the lines, to start build all the walls, and after that we need to remember about fix all the dimension, because with the photo we have some limitation. So we need to start draw a line from the corner, and we need to make the contour all over the wall. So we start, for example, here, and start with this line. We need to go to the down, and we need to draw whole the room. Of course, after that, when I will close the contour, we have the surface. So this is good for us, because now I can make offset. I know that the wall should be 100, so I can put it on our keyboard, and then I can remove the center. So now, as you can see, we have the first wall. Of course, it was very time consumption, because I need to do everything manually, and after that I will have to fix everything by myself. So this is the one solution how you can create the room to create and model the building with the photo. The next method, also very useful, especially if you work with the photo, is to use the reference lines. The reference lines are came from horizontal and vertical axis, and we just offset each of reference line by some dimension to have all the walls, to cover all the walls, as you can see how I made it right now. And after that I can use this reference line to build all the necessary dimension to create our walls. Of course, this will also be very useful and could very speed up our work, especially that this will be more precise that draw with the line and only with the eyes try to find the correct size of each wall. And the last way to create anything is to use the AutoCAD file, which is the best, the easiest, and the fastest way that only can be used in the SketchUp. So after import the files, we have pop-up window with some information that everything was imported correctly, and after that our sketch is in the group, so we can explode it, or we can go inside and start to draw. What is the most important? You will notice that you can select each of this line, and this is not a pixel, so all those lines are very precise. As you can see, there is no any shadows, and we can use each of this line to create the wall. So first I need to close it to get the surface. After that I will remove the line, and finally we have the surface that can be used, for example, to extrude the wall, which is very powerful and useful. So with this method we will try to recreate all the walls, but this is what we will do in the next topics. So to sum up, I would like to recommend to work only with the AutoCAD files. So every time you received all the source file, ask your client, ask your supplier to give you the AutoCAD files, which are very useful and powerful, and will give you the best and more precise results with your design. So in this class we are gonna to start to draw the walls, but before that I will go to the tags bookmark and I will add the new tags. Right now the section is under section tags, so if you will turn it off, you will also see that the view from the main view will also disappear. Unfortunately, I would like to have it for all the time, so I can very fast to go back and see on it. So I will just copy it and I will paste it into the 0 point of axis, and then I will move it to the right side. So now I can start to draw the walls on the right side, but before that we need to add the tags wall, and we also need to change the tags for our section also to the wall. The main issue that you will probably find out is that if you will still disappear the section view, you will notice that most of the drone also will disappear even if it was moved to the wall tags. This is very common problem, mostly because the section is in a group, and in a group some of the components are still in a section edges tags. So the best solution for that is to use the extension that I already showed you in another class, to select one elements and convert everything to the new tags, or you can also do it manually by selecting all edges in the open group and then choose the new tags as a wall. Thanks to that, you will have separated elements, and right now it will be fully moved to the wall tags. So the next thing that we can do is to hide the original view, and after that our section where I will draw the wall, I will put it on the left side. So thanks to that I will use this section to build and extrude the walls, but every time I can go back to view our section by turn on and turn off the visibility of the tags layers. Okay, so now if we are in the wall tags, I will start to draw all the lines to get the plane, and this is quite time consumption, especially if we have a lot of section just to fill. So the way is very simple. We need to draw in each close contour so additional line to get the surface inside, and these steps I need to repeat for all the contour to finally get all the necessary surface. So this is something that you will probably need to repeat every time you start your work in a SketchUp. So the more contour you have, of course the more time you will need to spend to close all of them to get the surface. Of course, finally I have all the surface with the reversed side, so right now I need to manually change each of them. Of course, there is also the plugin that I showed you in the other classes that you can use to reverse automatically by SketchUp all the wrong way planes. If we finally finished with all the surfaces, now we can use the extrude tool to extrude the walls for the for some distance. Right now it will be 3 meters, so it means that 3000 millimeters. Of course, by double click you will notice that some of the surface will be extruded in the opposite direction. This is also a very common problem. So in this situation the best solution will be to use manually extrude and or set the distance with the keyboard, or you can use the mouse and try to put them in the same height for each side. Okay, so we have walls, and right now we need to also finish the area where we have the windows. Okay, and now we need to add the distance for the window, so 2600 millimeters. Then we need to put the lines, and with these lines we can just add push pull for creating the top wall, and the same on the opposite direction. So we go back to the pencil. Then we need to set 2600 again. Now we need to put the line horizontal and make just push pull. The same in the last area, so we can extend the existing line and use it as a reference to add push pull for the top. Okay, and this is how fast we can add the top wall, and always remember to use rubber to delete unused line. We can use it with some plugins, or for example manually with erase tool. The same process we will repeat for the doors. So we have two doors, the one inside and the second one is entrance door. So we will start with drawing the reference line at the 2000 millimeters. Let's we repeat again, but from the middle 2000 millimeters, and now we can use it to draw the line, and we have finally the possibility to add push pull to create top wall over the door. Then we'll use the erase tool to remove unused lines, and sometimes this could be annoying because it will generate more gaps. So for example, in this situation we can use simple surface. Then we need to remove both additional surface, and we need to also reverse side for those inside. Okay, and we have the place to add the doors, and the same we will add for the entrance. So we will start with drawing the reference line, but this time we will add 1965. Then we will start to draw a line, and we can use it to add the push pull. And we finished. Now we will focus on the window in the toilet. So we will start from the reference line with 200 millimeters from the floor, and also the second reference line with 1200, and then we can start to draw the rectangle, and this will be used as our wall, so we can then extrude it to the next surface, and also upper one in the same way with the push pull. Okay, and we have the small window in the toilet. And then we have two huge windows in the living room. So we need to also create with the reference line the upper wall. So we'll start from the middle one, but maybe this time also with the reference line. And I guess that it will be probably easier to put it here on those walls. So we put 100 millimeters from the up. Then we need to draw the rectangle, and with the push pull we can extrude the contour. And the same we will create in the opposite side, also with the push-pull, and we have the area for the window. Before we end this lesson, always remember to remove all the unused lines or edges. This can be done manually, like you see on the screen right now, or you can use the plugins. This is a very useful process because it will remove all necessary surface, for example. In some software, for example, like 3D Studio Max, if you will add the model with a lot of edges, or for example, in some kind of render engines, this could be quite problematic. Also, remember to check if after this process you will not remove any surface and you will leave a gap. For example, as you can see right now, I have some issue with the surface. Probably there is some mistake in the geometry. Some edges is probably with some angles, so you also need to fix it. Also try to remove all surface that appear after cleaning, because we don't need anything like this in our final walls group. So in this lesson, this was everything. In the next, we will continue working with the model. So in this part, we will work with the windows. As you can see in our models, we have three different types of windows: in the living room, in the toilet, the smaller one, and in the kitchen. And there will be only three type. We will use, of course, the contour from our imported CAD files, so we can start to draw it using those lines as a reference. So I will start with the surface. Then I will make a components, because both of them will be the same. So if there will be any modification in one of them, the second will be automatically updated. So now we are go inside the components, and we will start with the offset for 50 millimeters. And then we need to add push-pull, and of course again we will use our reference line. Then we need to add our elements in the middle part. So first we'll start with looking for a center for our window, so it will be at this position. Then we can move it with 25 millimeters, and the same in the opposite direction, but this time with the 50, and always remember to remove all the unused lines. After that, we can use push-pull to move it up, and again we need to erase all the lines, so from this side and of course from the opposite one. Okay, there is also one interesting shortcut: component setting, hide trace of the model, the J for my keyboard, and when you hit it, then you will only see the components and nothing outside. By double click outside the components, you exit from it, so it is very useful command. Then we need to modify again our window, because we need to add the element that is inside. So we need to start with the line on both sides. Then we can move it by 15 millimeters down, and we can start to draw the plane on the both sides. Then we need to remove to have only the middle one parts, and with the push pull we need to add the thickness. Then again we need to remove all the unused lines on the both sides. And we have the windows with the new look, and of course now we need to add also the insides. So to do this, again we need to go and start to draw the surface, and right now we need to add the offsets, but the offsets will be bigger ones, so you can see that it's go inside our frame. Then we need to double click on it, we need to make it as a component, and then we need to remove the lines that is inside, because we only need the surface. What is more, we need to add the offset, something with 50 millimeters, remove the insides and add push pull for something 40 millimeters outside, and we have the additional frame. Then we need to copy it to the left side, so we select it. We can add some reference lines for easier transformation. Then I can now copy it with using these additional lines. And we have the nice looking windows. For more modification, I will just remove this upper inside frames, because I don't need to have separated, so I can just start to draw the plane, and with the push pull I can move it to remove those lines inside, and of course all the unused edges. So now we have the finished windows. Now I need to do the same with the upper window, the smaller one, so I will add some reference line for the 10 millimeters. Then I will move the inside frame to the up using our reference lines, something like this. Then what is the most important, I need to modify this inside frame, so I need to make it unique. After that I can double click on it to enter, and now I need to select, but remember to select it from the left to right, because we only need to select all the edges that are inside our selection trap, and with the keyboard up we need to move it to the top, because it will be only the inside elements for our upper part of the windows. Of course, as you can see, again I need to add some reference line, because I don't know where to put my mouse cursor. So again, the small edges with the 10 millimeters down. Again, we select everything and we need to move it down. So now we can also rescale it, but also with the move, because rescale it with the scale tool will also change our thickness. So with the move I will extend our windows to the left side. Then we need to move all the insides frame to the right windows, so we can do it manually, or even easier, I will just remove the window on the right side. I will select all the elements from those on the left side. I will just make it as a one new component, and I will just move it to the right side for duplicate these windows into different localization, and we need to put it just here. Great. So now we can repeat all the steps to create the small window in the toilet. So again, we start with the plane using our reference line. Then we need to make it as a components. We enter inside with the offsets. The offsets will be 50 millimeters. Remove insides, add the thickness. So you can use the reference lines. Okay, so we are done. Now we need to create the inside frame. So again, reverse with the offsets bigger than our frame window. Then we need to make it as a component. Go inside and remove all the unused lines to remove all the edges. Okay, then offset with the 50 millimeters. Remove the center plane and the thickness with the 40 millimeters. And we are done with the windows. Okay, so now what we can add is the handle to open and close the windows. It will be also very easy to do, just with some standard tools. So first we need to search for the center in our inside frame, and we need to add the lines, then the middle for the new lines. Maybe I will extend those lines a little, because for now it's too short. Great. Now we need to add the circle inside, the one on the upper side, and the same on the bottom side. So with the 40 millimeters long line, then again the circle with the 50 millimeters. Then we need to draw a line on the both sides. So this is quite annoying that we cannot find the center line, but we can use reference lines. Then we need to remove all the lines that are inside, so we need to only use the outside contour. Then with the push-pull we need to add the thickness, and now we have the first bevel and extruded elements. Then again the center line for the handle parts. Then we need to add how long will be our handle, so in the green axis, then with the blue one. So 110 should be enough. Now we need to add the circle inside. So we started from this point with 7 millimeters, and then we select our both guidelines, the first one and the second, and with the follow me tool we add the handle. Always remember to have organized everything that you have in your scene. So right now I will hide all the walls, and I will select the new windows and make it as a components, so to have it clear and easy to turn on and turn off the visibility. There is still one thing that we need to add, and this is the window sill, which is very useful. and one of the basic elements when you build the windows. So first we need to go and move down with that 20 millimeters our wall, and we have some additional space. So then we will use it, maybe this one also. Then we need to use it to start and draw the rectangle inside. Okay, then we can go up with 20 millimeters. Now we need to extend the length by 20 millimeters and of course on the corners. So first we need to draw the additional rectangle and move it by 20 millimeters, and the same on the opposite direction, also for 20 millimeters. So let's start to draw a rectangle and 20 millimeters, and we are done. Great. Now we need to add the radius on our corners. So first we need to use maybe 2-point arc. Great. And then we need to make the same on the opposite direction. So to do this, first we need to move the arc to the outside from our seal. Then we need to rotate it by 90 millimeters. Then we need to move it to the left, of course first with the reference line, because we need to find the correct position. Then we need to move our circle to the left side. We can now remove the reference lines, and with the push-pull we can add the radius on the both corners. So, and we are done. Of course, now the window sill we can also add to one component, and of course at the end what I need to do is to add all the windows to the window stack. So first we need to create the window stack, then we can hide all the walls that we have here, or we can select all the windows and add it to the window stack. Then we have the windows for the living room. The process will be the same. Also the windows are very easy, but they are different shapes, so I will import it because I prepared it before. So right now you can also import it and add it to your model. So this was everything in this class. With the next one we will start working with the doors. In this part we are gonna to create the doors, and of course first we need to start with build the frame for it. Building such elements, it's not complicated. Mostly we will use the standard tool, but of course there is a lot of elements to design. The thanks that you can do it once and then you can add those models to your library. So first we'll start with the reference line and create the rectangle. It will be upper elements for our frame, and push-pull to the opposite wall. And of course we create it as a components. Then we need to add some materials for better visualize where we are. So maybe I will select those one. And one by one we need to create all the necessary elements. So we will start with another reference line with 46 millimeters and the rectangle, and this will be our second elements from up to the bottom, and the same we need to create it as a component, and of course add the same color so we can use the picker. And now we need to move it to the opposite direction with control on the keyboards to copy it. And this is how the frames look right now. Then we need to add the middle plane, the middle surface. Then we need to create two offsets, but first we need to move it to the middle in our frame. Then we can create the offset, first offset with 10 millimeters, and then we need to remove the bottom the middle plane, and then we need to add another offset, but for push-pull, so we need to add the thickness and of course my components at the color for our frame. So this is where we are right now. So now we need to make some modification here. So first we need to remove those elements here. So I will use push-pull to remove it. If you can't do this, you need to also remove it manually, and of course be sure that you have surface not removed from your vertical elements. Then we add additional elements from the imported sketch that we can use as our reference on the both sides. So on the opposite we also need to draw rectangle, double click for at the same distance as before. Of course in both situations we need to create it as a component, and also remember to add the same color. And then we need to move it to the right side from both, so we can use move with the control to copy, and we need to place it exactly in the same position. Then we need to add the upper element itself also. So we can start to draw line just here, then with 10 millimeters to the right and to the up, and to the left to close the contour. Then with the push-pull we can add the upper one. Double click to make it as a component, color, and of course we need to remember to move it also to the opposite direction on the other side, just here. So let's remove it also with the control of the keyboard to have the mirror elements. Remember only to adjust the distance. Okay, and we are finished with the frame for our door. So as you can see, it wasn't so complicated. And after creating the frame, now it's time to create the doors, those elements that is open and close. Of course I will select everything from the frame and I will create it as components. I will also turn off the wall to see only the important sketches for me. There's also hinges. I will skip it because I don't need such a detailed doors, but you can also try to model it. I will start with the parts that is used for open and close the doors. So this one is quite easy because we need to only add 5 rectangles, and now I can hide it. So as you can see, this is the element that we exactly need. Of course, now we can turn on the hidden objects and unhide it. Then we can select everything and make it also as a one components. The next element is the handle. You can create handle by your own, or you can import it from, for example, from the 3D warehouse. I will just skip it modeling here because normally in my visualization the door will not be visible at all. So I will just add some customs handle to the doors. So you can also import any elements that you want. So as you can see here, I have also with the key and with all the mechanical parts. So I will just need to place it in a correct position. So something here should be enough. Okay, so now it's look great. Now it's time for the second doors that we have inside the house. And the second door, that one in the middle. So again, we will start with the elements that is used to open and close the windows with some higher value. Of course, it will only be only some circle about. Later we will just add the correct one. So then we need to create also the frame that is inside the wall. So I can divide it in the few rectangles so to make it faster, or the unused lines will be removed. Also remember to convert it into the components, and the outside elements from both sides, also the rubber inside, and we need to add some higher value and of course make it as a component, and the same you can do on the opposite direction. You can copy those one before, or you can just model it again and remove all the lines and make it as a component. Okay, so we are almost done. Now we need to copy everything and we need to move it also to the opposite direction, but maybe first we'll just set the correct height, so to the wall up. With those elements we need to create it again because we've copied them. We will have to also create the mirror, so sometimes it will be faster to recreate from the beginning, especially that the contour is very easy to create. And again, the elements that are outside, okay, and remove those one from the inside. Then create as a components. The same from this side, also we need to create it in the same way. Remove thickness with the push-pull and create it as a components. That's it. So now we can I hide the wall, and we can adjust the correct tool for all the elements. There is still one thing to do. We need to add the upper elements, so I will put the 50 millimeters for the rectangle. Then I need to use push-pull. Then I need to convert it into the components. And now we need to connect everything together. So we select all three elements and use options to make it as a one element and convert it also to the components. Then we can back to the previous objects and make the correct length for it, also for those elements that are outside. So we need to select it and manually add some reference line, and now it will be easier to make it tall enough. And here we go with the up. Okay, and all four parts we need to repeat those sections. Okay, so for the rest parts I will just little skip the video because the process is almost the same. So we need to add the length for all of them, and now we need to add the masking elements that is also visible in outside. So to do this, first I need to draw some reference line to make the new rectangle. Then I need to place the plane, and with the push-pull the first elements, make it as a component and copy it to the other sides. Of course, as you can see here, we have different dimensions, so it means that I need to adjust it. I also need to make it as a unique because I need to modify it. So double click on it, select only the left surface and move it. Then we need to select each element and make it smaller. Okay, so all of them are now ready. So also I will just remove the lines, and we need to assemble all the elements together to remove all the unnecessary section and line surface. And these lines, reference lines, and of course I need to select everything and make it as a one component and move it to the new door tag. And we have the new tags, the door. Then what I need to do is to copy my last doors, because as you can know, there is one additional place that we have the same doors. So I need to just put it in the correct position, and we are done. Of course, as you can see, there is still one thing to add, the radius. Because on my visualization there won't be visible the door, so I will just skip it. But for adding the radius, the best options is to use plugins, because normally you will have to create the path and then the add push-pull for the contour together with the path, and this will take a lot of time, so the plugins will be the best options here. Okay, so now we are ready with the doors. In this class, we are gonna to add some furniture to the SketchUp, and of course, people who work with SketchUp are divided into those one who who are specialized in modeling also the furniture in SketchUp, and on those one who decided to download furniture from the 3D warehouse. SketchUp, especially if we talk about furniture, about this trade furniture, is good software to use. Unfortunately, if we talk more about some complex shapes and design, could be a little annoying when it comes to create it in SketchUp. This is mostly what I recommend is to go to 3D warehouse, just here, and in the online library search for any interesting furniture. There also you can find really a lot of interesting objects, mostly designed by some famous producer, and you can use it as a free model in your visualization. So right now for our project I will use some of the already designed furniture. You can also import it directly to your file. This is because I would like to skip all the process for designing, because sometimes it could be quite long to create some really easy object. So as you can see, I just imported the components, and in the components we have all the necessary elements. By the default, as you can see, that we need to rotate it, so we can use the flip along some axes. First one the red, and then probably the green, and now it's rotated in a correct way, so you can now just you can move it directly and place all the elements in the kitchen with only one click. This is because all of the objects before they were also placed in a correct localization based on the important CAD file. Also, what you need to understand that sometimes by importing models from a 3D warehouse could make some problems with your scene in SketchUp. This is because very often the models are not built from the beginning in the SketchUp, but sometimes people just use 3D Studio Max or any other software, and then they convert those models into the SketchUps, and those models have a lot of issue with the geometry, and this could also very slow down your SketchUp files. The same is also with some people for creating some different shapes, use some plugins. Some of them could be not updated, and also could generate a lot of issue. So for example, here as you can see, by importing those furnitures, I have new tags that I don't need, and they also generate some additional information. So very useful is also option hide rest of the model, because thanks to that you can also see some geometry that are hidden, so you can add the shortcut in the SketchUp preferences by selecting hide and add some keyboards. So for example, I use J for that. And thanks to that, you can isolate your important model and check if everything is correct. So in this situation, the best way to remove those additional tags is to select them and choose to remove. Of course, these options and this method is correct if you are sure that everything in this model are already removed, some unuseful geometry and so on. So after try to delete the tag, there will be a pop-up window with the question, what would you like to do with all the elements that are already in this tag? So right now we select the kitchen. So I would like SketchUp to move all the elements from my existing, some prepared by the designers from this furniture, these tags, and move all the objects to my own tag, which is called kitchen. And thanks to that, I can remove everything that is unused. The same I will repeat with the equip, and I will move everything to the kitchen. So this will help you with correct organization with your tags, with your files, and with your objects. So the next thing we can do is to repeat this process for the room and for the toilets objects. Okay, so let's repeat those process for the toilet. So I just imported the objects, and now I would like to place it in the correct position. Of course, as you can see, again they are rotated. Mostly you can also change the axis for any object and save them, so after you repeat the process for importing, it will be in the correct position. But instead of this, you can also use two flips and you will also have them in a correct way. Okay, so now we have the last room, so we can also import the room. And now, as I can see, the same issue, we need to flip it. So right click and we need to change the direction, and now we are ready to place it in the correct position. So we just choose this corner and place it just here. Okay, and we are done with it. Before we go forward, I need to show you one thing. During the modeling, you will notice that the ground, the base, is under the red axis. This is very common situation, and it has both advantage and disadvantage. The first thing that we can mention as a plus is that if we have ground below the red axis, below the red and green plane, every time you will import new components, new furniture, all of them will be automatically placed on the ground, because components are mostly created on the red axis. For example, if the ground will be above red axis, every time you will import any objects from the 3D library, it will be placed again on the red axis, and it will look like it goes inside your ground. So every time you start model the house, you need to figure out when you want to put your ground plane. I recommend to put it, of course, below the red axis during the modeling, but after finish, always remember to move hold the model, hold the house above the red axis. This is because when you later use some render software, some of them will probably have a problem with correct put the position in the viewport. Nowadays, most of the software give you ability to move the models up and down, but of course there are still some of them that are only used as a render and cannot be done any modification for the building, and if any model is below the zero axis could generate the next issue. So this is one thing that is worth to remember. Okay, the next thing that we need to add is the top wall or the wall elements that is placed above the furniture. So as you can see here, still we have some gaps, but now this will be easy to do. Just remember to switch into the tag wall and double click on your wall, and after that you need to create the elements. Of course, the easier will be if you will turn on the visibility for your furniture. Of course, first I will just close the contour that I need in those three parts. Then I will remove my top plane that was automatically created because I don't need it. And after that, with the push-pull, I can add the thickness, and this is some kind of masking for my furniture. Of course, I will just add it with this length value, and the same for each element. Okay, the second one and the last. Okay, the last thing, we need to reverse the faces, and of course we need to remove all the unused lines. Always try to do this because it will generate some issues sooner, so it is better to remember about this process at the earlier stage of your modeling part. Okay, so now we have all walls ready, and we are almost ready to start make visualization for our modeling, because as you can see right now we have everything needed for this.
So we have just finished the first part of preparing our project for the next steps. Now you should have knowledge of how to import CAD files from another software and how to convert them into 3D objects. This was just the beginning of our interior render process. Remember that preparing models are one of the most important things to get a realistic render at the end. In the next part, we will deeper go into the Vray and 7S TGR programs to get a nice render.